here in Valencia for the 8th round of the 26th season of this AIC season. I think we had a few weeks off of both broadcasting and racing, so we're not too far through the season. But anyway, it is round 8. Ronnie Peterson leads the championship by 30 points over Nigel Mansell, with Carlos Reutemann and Mario Andretti in close pursuit behind Mansell. But today, it is Patrick Tapai on pole in an all-Tyrrell front row. He's joined on the front row by Jody Scheckter, the winner in Spa-Francorchamps, a race that Tapai was also on pole for. Only three drivers have opted for the soft tyre to start today, Dan Gurney being the other one, behind Tyrrell on the grid. It's 30 degrees today. We're not sure if the soft tyre will be the right call. Certainly when the AIF Star Championship raced here a few weeks ago, the soft tyre was pretty poor. But we'll see if that is the same today. Fourth on the grid, Nigel Mansell, winner last time out in Monte Carlo, and the man second in the championship, joined with Keke Rosberg, 4th and 5th. Alessandro Nannini, a man who's finished in the top 5 in the last 2 races with a brilliant performance last time out, goes from 6th. He was on the podium here last season. He's just ahead of Carlos Pache in the second Brabham. Then it's Jean-Pierre Beltois, a winner this season, but few points in recent rounds. Jochen Rindt scored last time out. He goes from 9th, and the top 10 is completed by Jean-Pierre Jabouille. The second Ligier, Jean-Pierre Jarier, starts the second half of the field. He's generally had the edge on his teammate this season. Mario Andretti and Carlos Reutemann are 12th and 13th. Andretti ahead of Reutemann. Reutemann, I think, has been generally the slower of the two in qualifying, though he did get second place in Monte Carlo. Eddie Cheever and Mauro Baldi go from 14th and 15th. A rather better showing for Arrows, who've usually been at the back of the grid. They're ahead of Chris Amon's Ferrari and Jackie Icks's RWB on the same tyres. We have 3 hard compound starters today. The championship leader, Ronnie Peterson, who finished 3rd last time out. Rolf Stommelen in the second RWB behind the McLaren of Peterson, but ahead of the second McLaren, Bruno Giacomelli, who made his debut last time out for McLaren. He started on hards in Monaco. They're a very good, useful race tyre, and he stopped just once on his way from last on the grid to 7th. This does mean that in his 2 appearances for McLaren, he has started from last on both occasions. That is the grid. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Williams, as ever, are the favourites. They've been very competitive in recent races, with 2 wins in the last 3, both coming from Nigel Mansell from Keke Rosberg poles. The only other race in that period, which was not won by Williams, was won by Tyrrell from a Patrick Tapai pole, Jody Scheckter winning. Does that mean anything today? Absolutely not. Tyrrell are not particularly enamoured with their car. I don't think they expect to be able to hold on to their grid position. So they go from pole, but we'll see. There's often field spread here, and there's a very short pit lane. The 4-stop has generally been favoured in the past. It's what worked very well for Brabham last season, which saw them nearly win the race, in a race I think that in the end was Prost, Beltois, Nannini as the podium. A repeat of that, or at least seeing Nannini and Beltois again on the podium, would be very interesting today. But we will see. Just 20 seconds until the light. I think there's a lot riding on the start. Lotus say that they need to get ahead of Williams, but they are away behind. McLaren obviously want to make up as many places through medium runners, but let's see as here come the light. 5 are on, and we are away very quickly, and nothing seems to have changed since the first corner at all. No positions being made up or lost. Amon passes Baldi. There we go. That's the first position change. But Tapai leads from Scheckter, from Gurney. Mansell and Rosberg in hot pursuit, not flying through the field as we've often seen them on the start. The tyres are heating up very nicely already. So, is this going to be a race of hot tyre temperatures? Mansell then passes Gurney, and Nannini past Rosberg. So, Williams not as quick as we would have expected, as Rosberg gets back past Nannini and Jarre into the top 10 and past Beltois. So Andretti come through as well. Bad start then for the Aston Martins and Dan Gurney, and actually Chris Amon. But good start for Williams and Ligier. Tapai running away at the front then. Whether he can win, we'll see. I know that Tyrrell are very much of the belief that Tapai is a bit of a number 2 to Scheckter, and I should say this season Scheckter has been the one who has made the most of the opportunities presented. He's been on the podium twice in Sepang and in Spa, and in Sepang it was a truly superb drive from the double champion. But Depay running away at the front. They are running away from Mansell. Williams are not quick in terms of the sort of early race pace that we have expected of them, but the tyres really are heating up pretty extraordinarily here by the looks of it. Even on just neutral push level, Jackie X is almost in the red zone, overheating his tyres, so it's not looking great. I suspect Gurney's going to drop like a stone through the field. Jarre is up to 4th. I suspect he used some boost that I missed. And they are boosting. Here comes Mario Andretti. I think Reutemann's being left for dead, which is a strange decision because he's the one who actually has a better chance of the driver's title for Lotus. But anyway, Andretti using his boost to get up to 4th. So 2 cars come through the field, and there comes Reutemann. And it's, yeah, poor start from Arrows. They're going backwards. A shame, because we have seen 2 especially brilliant drives from Eddie Cheever this season, sorry. As Reuter now passes Rosberg. Mansell and Rosberg, one of them, Mansell, has his favourite circuit here. Rosberg's a street circuit specialist. I believe he's won here before for McLaren. So I would expect to see them doing quite well, but that's not necessarily the case. As Depay and Scheckter swap positions out front again. Mario Andretti up to 3rd, then ahead of Mansell. That is what Lotus said they had to do. They said they had to get ahead of ahead of Williams. But let's see if that is going to be sustainable. A lot of boost has gone down from Andretti, but not much from Mansell. I don't think Williams are that quick today, because we've seen them rocket through the field before off the start, and they haven't done that today, and it's not a track that's too hard to overtake on. So I reckon that Williams, as they were in a lot of the races early in the season, particularly, Sakhir and Sao Paulo, and as well Sepang, they were massively overfueled. And I suspect they might have done the same thing here, having been underfueled in Spa. So it is possible that Williams might not be the quick team that we expected them to be, as Reutemann now passes Mansell, who gets on the boost to defend. As, of course, the Tyrrells are swapping away out front, and it's looking quite good for them. I think this is good stuff for Tyrrell. They're conducting a nice race by themselves at the moment, which is something we often saw as a trademark of Smoky Rubber in the days of Alfa Romeo in Singapore. He would conduct his own race on his own strategy and usually produce a good result from it, often not with the best equipment, and that seems to be what Tyrrell are doing today. And looking at the tyre temperatures now, after 4 laps on medium tyres on neutral push level, Jackie X is starting to struggle with his temperatures. So I suspect it's Dan Gurney's in huge trouble. But anyway, Peterson using boost to come through the field on guys who are going to be starting to struggle on tyres. I think Peterson's realised he needs to catch up to the breakaway group that contains the Lotuses, Williamses and Jarrier. They're having a huge battle, being extremely aggressive, are Lotus, but they're all using boost. That's the thing, they are all using boost. And I think actually it's not as disadvantageous to Lotus as I looked earlier when they'd had to blast through the field on their boost. But let us see. In terms of tyre wear rather than temperatures, there's a little bit more wear than I'd have expected. So we might be leaning towards more stops than we thought we were going to get. We're expecting 3 stops from the majority of the field, but it's looking like the tyres are a bit worse than it looked initially. So, and by initially I mean in practice, we're only on lap 6. And a great run there from, I think that's Beltois and Jabouille. But at the front, it's still the 2 Tyrrells conducting their race, and then it's Reutemann and Rosberg. So the order's slightly reversed in terms of which pair are ahead. Jari's used a lot of his boost, so he's hanging on gamely at the moment, but I'm not going to see if he's going to stay there the whole race. And here comes on the boost Beltois and Rintz, the two Aston Martins, and Pache as well. And that's not great news for Peterson, as Nannini now goes on the boost. Everyone's on the boost. So, was this a smart move from McLaren to start on hards? It worked brilliantly in Singapore. It worked interestingly in Monte Carlo for Giacomelli. But I suspect there's a lot of issues with tyre temperatures for pretty much everyone in the field. So, I mean, another brilliant run from Alessandro Nannini, who has been confirmed to be leaving Brabham to rejoin RWB. I think Brabham's upturn in form came a little late for the Italian. But of course, they scored no points in the first 5 rounds of the season. It's only been in Spa and Monaco where they've picked up a result. And Nannini actually looking very good again today. He was thrown out of the one chance he had at a top seat after, I think, 4 or 5 races. But he's starting to make a name for himself again as Jackie X now passes Dan Gurney. Gurney's not really found Valencia happy hunting ground at any point in his career, and it's proving to be the same today. The problem, I think, for Peterson here, who is in this queue as they are boosting again and again, I think Lotus are trying to catch up to Tyrrell. The problem for Peterson, the championship leader, who's 12th, is that he can't really find himself making positions. But Andretti and Rosberg pass Reutemann, Jarre and Nannini pass Mansell. So Mansell's slow. The guy who's second in the championship, Nigel Mansell, 2-time winner this season, is losing time. He's down to 8th. The two Aston Martins are behind him. Carlos Pache has been shuffled back. Good run from Jochen Rindt, a man whose future is absolutely uncertain. Extremely uncertain future. He is doing a good job as Depay comes into the pits, the first man to stop from second place. Jody Scheckter leads as Depay goes on to the mediums. I don't know if that was an intentional play or simply the tyre temperatures, as Lotus are getting a bit shirty with Williams. But anyway, the pit lane's not too long. Depay's come out, it's about 18 seconds by the looks of it, maybe 17. Depay's come out right on the back of the field, on the back of Gurney. So it's actually looking all right for Depay. It's not, I mean, I think the pit lane here used to be about 13 seconds, but it's now more like 18, as I just said. So, Depay stops. He's on the back of the field. He's going to pretty start catching Giacomelli fairly quickly, who has not made the same kind of progress that Peterson has made through the field. He's really got stuck. He got past the Aris cars at one point, but it's not really been particularly fruitful aside from that. Scheckter now pits and goes on to the medium tyres. Rindt is starting to look very good at this stage of the race. He's looking pretty quick. He's starting to catch Nannini, I think. And he does. He has caught Nannini. So Jochen Rindt up to 6th. Great stuff from the Austrian. Lotus now have a 1-2 from Rosberg. Mansell's fallen back. And he's stuck with Jarrier. And they're starting to fall into the lap times. They're really long. Crikey, 2 minutes. Hadn't really been focusing on that before. But Reutemann leads Andretti and Rosberg. They've burnt through a huge amount of boost, particularly Rosberg. Mansell's starting looking slightly better on boost, and I think tyre temperatures are starting to be a bit of a problem, and it is a complaint from Ligier. Not necessarily the most surprising of information. It is that team who are struggling. But there we are. Nannini's really struggling as well, actually. I think Rindt might have gapped. No, Rindt hasn't quite gapped him. As Jarry now passes Mansell, I think Rosberg is not really with the lead group anymore. As Nannini and Peterson pass Jochen Rindt. So, Andretti leads on lap 11 from Reuten, from Rosberg, from Jarre, and from Mansell. Scheckter now passes Baldi, so they are starting to come through the field. I think this is a race at Lotus feel they have to win. I think they're getting a bit angry about things, and they are very much feeling, yeah, they have to win this. As on the boost again go the Astons and Brabhams, which is exactly not what Peterson wanted, as he has just been shuffled back a lot of positions, and same for Mansell. It's really curtailing the pace of certain drivers, as Scheckter and Tapia looking very good of having made a stop already, but if they are forced stopping, that may be a problem as Williams have left the live race, which could mean, depending on what push level they're on when they left, they could be in a lot of trouble when they come back. Because if they left it too high, they're going to be struggling like anything to get tyre temperatures back. So, I think we're going to start seeing the medium runners come in now. As I say that, here comes Nannini and Beltois. As Gurney's going to finish last today. I think it'll be the second time this season, which is a shame for him. But I think this will be his last season of competition in the AIC, given his age. As the Tyrrells, particularly the Jody Scheckter, Scheckter is coming very quickly, doing a very good job. As Mansell held on there to Jarre, so they're both Peterson and Mansell both past Jarre. Tapia and Scheckter doing a great job coming back to the field. They're already on the back of this group, having made a pit stop. I think Lotus would be absolutely furious if Tyrrell got a second win of the season before Lotus managed to get there first. And I'm sure Tyrrell would be delighted by that prospect as the race leader, Mario Andretti, pits, followed by Kicker and Mansell. So it's a double stack. It's a double stack for Williams, and that's going to cost Mansell time. They clearly haven't changed the default strategy. That's going to cost a lot of time for Mansell, who is trying to eat into the championship lead of Ronnie Peterson. But it's not worked well for him. I can't see where he's rejoined. He's 15th. He's behind Pache, who I think pitted the lap. No, Pache must have pitted the same lap, didn't he? So it is a huge loss for Mansell to be behind both Astons and both Brabhams. It's all falling apart. Rosberg's fine, but it's not working fast. And Scheckter's already caught up to this group. And Giacomelli and Peterson, who are yet to stop. So it's going very well for Jody Scheckter, the former teammate of Ronnie Peterson. And I think this is another race that Tyrrell will feel Scheckter can win. We're just over a quarter of the way into this now. Peterson leads Giacomelli, Scheckter, Stommel and Tapia and Ix. Well, to stay behind Giacomelli. I think this is now Scheckter's race to lose. He's done a superlative job so far. And I don't really see now. If he can make it on 3 stops, I think then he should be fine. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to make it on 3 stops. So, starting to look good for Tyrrell. And he's just so much quicker than Peterson. Extraordinarily fast. Giacomelli and Tapia through as well. It's going to give Tyrrell their 1-2 back. As Peterson loses 3 places, he's down to 4th. I don't know how concerned McLaren are going to be about this. I think they are probably of the view that they are racing Lotus rather than Tyrrell. Yeah, it's not looking good anymore for Ligier. They went longer on the first stint with Jarier than everyone else. So here they're at the back and they've been having issues with tyre temps. So said, Jarier is now going to pass Mansell as Peter's going to do the same as Depay loses out to Giacomelli and Andretti. And Tyrrell now have the view that Mario Andretti is the favourite for this race, I think, which we will see if that is the case. As Stommelen and Giacomelli pit, it's going to put into fifth Alessandro Nannini. And I think with Williams having left, they're at a bit of a disadvantage. I suspect they're going to score no points now. I think McLaren have just had the worst possible thing happen because Giacomelli's just rejoined right in front of Ronnie Peterson, and I don't think that was at all on the game plan for McLaren. But Mansell's definitely not going to score today, unless a huge number of drivers run out of fuel. I don't really see Rosberg scoring. I don't think he's going to be able to maintain it. So Williams are going to walk away with no points, in my opinion, at the end of this race, which would be very bad news for them, given they are, well, Mansell at least is second in points. So we're going to see what happens, but I'm not convinced this is going to be a fruitful day for the Grove-based outfit, or are they based in Didcot? I don't know. But anyway, Andretti now leads, but Schechter's got a lot more boost than him. So is this going to be the second career win? And yeah, it is only the second career win for Mario Andretti because, of course, when Ferrari won last season, when Andretti was a Ferrari driver, it was Dan Gurney. And I think not a change. Yes, there is a change at the front as Scheckter reclaims his lead, and he's going to have to try and hold on. He's got 4 laps older tyres. He's got the boost advantage. I wonder if Scheckter's going to have to try and either do some soft stints to pump in the lap times, or if he wants to make it on the same number of stops, Andretti go on the hards. We're going to find out. The hards are not a terrible tyre. I don't think. Giacomelli and Peterson ran quite nicely on them, as did Stommelen. And Ix is now on them as well. Peterson's starting to struggle with tyre temperature. He tries to go after Jumper Jarier, who's used a lot of boost. I suspect Ligier, another team that are not going to score. Chris Amon scored at Monaco. He's looking good again today. Impressive stuff from the Kiwi, who is, as always, fighting for his drive because he just simply is not that quick most of the time. But it looks like today is a good day. Williams are really in the doldrums. I think they are gone for the day. I don't think we're going to see anything from Williams now. I haven't heard anything from them. I just know that they are no longer live managing, which means it is a good opportunity for their rivals to take points off them. And actually, their biggest rival is Tyrrell. Tyrrell are behind them in the championship, I believe, by 37 points. So a double podium for Tyrrell would bring them right back into contention with Ligier. So Depay pits, and he's come out just behind Nigel Mansell. As Peterson uses boost, he's not willing to hang around and wait to make use of these tyres. Lotus want to be left alone by, I presume, Scheckter, who's going to have to go for an undercut. As Depay's gone onto the hard. So Depay, yeah, that's Tyrrell committing to a 3-stop. And frankly, if they can hold on with the boost advantage over Lotus with then get trap position with an undercut and hold on with the boost advantage. I think it's going to be a very interesting race playing out once again between these two teams, as we had in Spa. So, Scheckter goes to hards. Andretti now leads Reutemann by 6.5 seconds nearly, and Schechter's done a great job here. He's right behind Peterson. I think Depay is definitely out of it, but I don't think Tyrrell really ever had faith in him to win it, even from pole. So I think they will simply back Jody Scheckter until the end of this race. As Peterson passes Beltois and Scheckter tries to follow. Boost from the Brabhams. Third and fourth. Brabham, from having a real dog of a car that didn't score in the first 5 races, they're really turning it around at the moment. Because they have... Nannini's been 5th in the last 2 races. Pache's picked up a 6th and an 8th. And they could be on for another big haul of points today, especially with Williams and Ligier fading fast. Although Jaboué actually doing a very good job. I think Jaboué's done a better job than Jarre today. And I think he's going to end up beating him, which we've not seen very often. But anyway, we're nearly at half distance. Andretti leads from Reutemann. Reutemann is closing in. He takes just under half a second out of him on that last lap. Even quicker, the two Brabhams. Nannini third, Pache fourth. Chris Amon in 5th position, ahead of Ronnie Peterson, the championship leader, who is about to take the position away from the Kiwi. Beltois about to lose out to Scheckter. So a few position changes. Rosberg gets Beltois as well. Rosberg is able to maintain a pace that Mansell cannot. Rosberg, I don't think will score, because I don't think he's got the boost left for it. But I think he does at least have some semblance of pace, which he also had in the early stages, unlike Mansell. Erratic is, I think, the only way to describe Williams at the moment. I wonder if we'll have any fuel considerations later on in the race, but I'm not sure about that. I think we're going to start to see the second round of stops beginning now. As Cheever's now past Mansell. Yeah, Mansell must have been left on an inappropriate push level for the conditions. So I don't think he's that slow, really. I don't think Williams have put the right fuel load in either. I think they're too heavy. So they'll have that issue, as I think Reutemann is now being made to play number 2 to Andretti, which, I mean, they're fairly close in points. Reutemann has outscored the pre-season favourite for the title, Mario Andretti. But today is Andretti's day out of the 2 Lotus drivers. As Scheckter now clears aim, and Beltois, I think, starts starting to queue up behind him, and Nannini into the pits. So Beltois will be in as well. And anyone else? I don't see any other takers at the moment. So it's going to be down to Peterson to take third. They rejoin at the back, of course. Well, Nannini actually doesn't. He rejoins in 15th, but Beltois rejoins last but Gurney. And I'm afraid for the 2-time champion, Dan Gurney, it is going to be a last place finish that is all he can really get today. So Scheckter tries to catch up to Peterson, doesn't make it. Depay's really been left for dead. I suspect Depay is going to be looking at a low points finish today rather than a podium. But if Scheckter can win or get a solid result, which he may well do, he could be on for a top 3. I suspect he will be, but we'll see how it plays out. We are now at half distance. But I think Tyrrell will be happy with the performance of the South African today. Signed a new contract, turned down an offer from McLaren, of course, where he was meant to be this season, reuniting with Ronnie Peterson. But anyway, Peterson now into third. What can he do compared to the 2 Lotus men out front? Reutemann is going to take the lead, but it's going to be thanks to using all his boost up. Although he doesn't actually have that much less than Andretti. So Reutemann may be a factor compared to Andretti. And what do you do with your Lotus? If you can have one finish first and 1 second, surely you've got to give Reutemann the race win. Given he, of course, is the one who is ahead in the championship. But we'll see if it comes down to that. If Peterson salvages another podium, or even a win with this McLaren, which doesn't seem to be all that quick, that would be a pretty good job, and I think McLaren will be very happy, as Pache and Eamon are in, as is Rosberg and Rint. So a lot of pit stops. Ligier staying out. I think Ligier... I think Jabouille can get a good result today. He hasn't used any boost. Jarry has used a lot. I think Jabouille could be on for a good haul today. But we'll see, obviously. That's the way these things go. Giacomelli then up into 5th place. He's starting to come back through the field. Doing a decent job, as Nannini has caught Tapaye up. And Tapaye's got a lot more boost left, but Nannini is a real threat for a top 5 again for the 3rd race running. And he's going back to RWB, and he's had his chance in the top car, which didn't really go particularly well, but he's clearly a very good driver. So, where will Andretti rejoin? The race leader is in the pits. I think he's going to be ahead of Giacomelli quite comfortably. He is. So, Reuteman's going to have to be careful here, because if he has a poor lap, I don't think he can afford to lose too much time to Bruno Giacomelli. So Andretti burns his boost, which I think was a silly mistake, because it's going to... so it's going to mean Reuteman's going to be out of this. He's going to be back towards Tapaye. Actually, McLaren could really run Andretti out of boost here. Yeah, that's what McLaren have got. Giacomelli right up behind. Yeah, this is bad news, I think, for Lotus. Schechter's being caught by the 2 Lotuses, but Peterson then is going to make his 2nd stop from the lead of the race, but I don't think he's really fighting these guys, because Peterson's going to have to make an extra stop compared to them. So it's not really the greatest situation for Peterson. But if he rejoins in clean air, I'm not convinced he is. I think he's going to rejoin just behind Jackie Ickx. I think that's going to be a really bad position to be, because the pit lane is not fantastic. He's right ahead of Chris Amon. So that's actually not the worst situation for the Swedish driver, the championship leader, the season 20 champion. Immediately moves on Pache. Reutemann takes the lead from Jody Scheckter. So it's Reutemann then back into the lead where he was before he stopped. Struggle on the hard tyres, but he does have the boost compared to Lotus. So he might be all right, but we'll see as Gurney pits. So Reutemann has been forced to use his boost, as Andretti now gets left behind as Scheckter boosts. I wonder how much... I mean, Peterson's got a monumental task. He's got to make up 13 seconds with tyres that are basically 1 lap younger. So I don't think it's going to be a particularly fantastic result for Peterson. But we'll find out as the race goes on. But Andretti is now the one who has got to line up to pass Giacomelli. Andretti's gone from basically having a 7-second lead over Reutemann to being 4 seconds behind. It's a 11-second swing. And it's not really, I don't think, what he would have wanted, to be honest. And And it's starting to look quite bad for Andretti, who's going to easily pass Giacomelli, of course, but here he comes as Nannini still in 5th. A really fantastic result. You might be getting driver of the day again. But anyway, Andretti up into 3rd. It's Reutemann from Scheckter, from Andretti, from Giacomelli, Nannini, Depay, Peterson, Pache, Eamon, and Beltois. 11th is Stommelen, who is two-stopping, which I think is also what Giacomelli is doing. Tyrrell need to get to really lap 36, I think, to make this to the end on mediums. They can go from now if they want to go on hards again, but I think that's really will be interesting. We'll see what they end up doing. I wonder if they should have gone on a 4-stop, but then again, Gurney's 4-stop is going absolutely abysmally, so we'll see what the right call is. But at the moment, Carlos Reutemann leads. Andretti takes 2nd from Scheckter. Giacomelli still 4th. Nannini still 5th. And Nannini's got more boost than Peterson here. Nannini is doing an absolutely exquisite job once again. And he's catching up to Giacomelli, who has absolutely nothing to offer in defence. And I think he's going to get past him quite easily. Nannini now has used up his boost, but he's going to quite easily, I think, get past his fellow Italian. Lap 34 now. Reutemann leads Andretti, who's driving away from Scheckter. Giacomelli 4th. He's about to be passed, of course, by Nannini. 5th, Peterson 6th. Pache sent Depay down to 8th. I think Depay will hold on to the points. It's gone very badly wrong for Williams. They're not going to score. I think it's going to be a struggle for Jarret, definitely. Might be a chance for Jabouille, but I'm not convinced anymore that Jabouille is going to be able to score. But we'll see. But Lotus looking very nice at the moment. They're sitting very pretty at the front of the field. Nannini is going to start catching Scheckter. I can't believe that's not really. Well, we'll see. We'll see how things pan out here as Giacomelli makes his 2nd stop, as does Rolf Stommelen. Yeah, so Williams have obviously left it on the wrong push level when they've left because they've gone backwards in an extraordinary pace. Fastest man on the track at the moment is Mario Andretti in 2nd, even though he's on older tyres than Peterson and some others. I think that is just a credit to the Lotus at the moment, at this stage of the race and season, that they're going that quickly. But there we are. I don't know if we're going to have anyone with fuel troubles, but we'll see. I'm not sure. Rindt has come back into this. He fell off for a bit in the 2nd stint, but he's starting to come back towards Beltois now. And he could end up getting ahead of his teammate and beating him for the 2nd race running. But it looks like they also might be on for... Well, no, I don't think they're on for a point. I was going to say they're going to be on for a point, but I think with Jabouille and Giacomelli behind them, I think they're going to be 11th and 12th. And Depay is ahead of them, but he's got a lot more boost. So I think probably not points on the cards today for Aston Martin. But you never know. Eamon in 7th, doing a very good job, I have to say. And it's about the time that he needs to be doing a very good job. Is he going to manage to get a 6th season? The 7th season, sorry, in the AIC? I'm trying to think how long he's been around for. I think season 21. I think. No. Yes, season 20. Yes, it'll be his 7th season if he gets another one. The Scheckter rejoins just ahead of Giacomelli, who I think will try and pass him, and then Scheckter will repass him and get a nice helping of DRS the next lap, as Peterson in the other McLaren takes 3rd from Alessandro Nannini. Giacomelli's nowhere near close enough to Scheckter. So the Tyrrell with much better acceleration out of that corner stays ahead. But Scheckter will be going to the end. Depay can make it from here on mediums quite comfortably. So if Depay comes in now, he can go to the medium tire, but he's not really a factor anymore in this IGP as Nannini now comes to the pit lane, which will mean Beltoir will do the same. And Depay comes in as well. Eamon up to 5th then, albeit briefly on the pit cycle. Nannini, I think, is going to get Giacomelli. Nannini's going to beat Giacomelli today. And he might even beat... I don't know. Schecter's got the boost. I don't think he'll have a crack at Scheckter. Giacomelli, however, I think is going to be a nice target for Nannini. Is it too early to say this is a race that Lotus have won? They've got 8 seconds to Ronnie Peterson, who seems to be about a second a lap quicker. He's got a lot more boost. So is this going to be a race that is won by Lotus, or is it going to be a race as Andretti now comes in? Is this going to be a race that is won by Lotus, or is Peterson going to be able to do anything? He might get second, but I think Reutemann, the man who's going to take second in the championship when he wins, if he wins, I think, yeah, it's going to be a tough job for anyone to prevent this from being a Lotus 1-2. And Jarry still needs to pit, so... As Nannini comes through on Giacomelli, Nannini's going to have a crack at Scheckter, but Scheckter has the boost, so I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem for the South African. But if it is, Scheckter, I think, anyways on for 5th. Sorry, Nannini, I think, anyways on for 5th place again, which is simply astounding. So Peterson into the lead. What can he do now? He can't. He's going to have to stop again. But what can he do? Is Andretti now is going to go after Reutemann. They're going to try and help each other. And Andretti's going to go past Reutemann now. As Scheckter gets Jabouille. Jabouille, I presume, will go to the softs. I think Peterson's going to do the same thing. So, 10 laps to go. Peterson continues to lead. From Andretti and Reutemann. Then Scheckter. Peterson's going to have to come through a lot of traffic, is his problem. That's what he's going to really have to deal with, and it's going to be difficult, I think. Jarry is up to 8th, but Jarry's got to stop again. So I don't think Jarry is going to be a factor at all either. As Nannini passes Giacomelli. So Jarry is passed by X. Depay is not in the points, but he's going to end up in the points. I suspect he'll end up in 9th. Maybe 8th. He's fighting off the man whose seat he took, Jochen Rindt, and the other Aston Martin of Jean-Pierre Beltoir. So Peterson in. Reutemann takes the lead again from Andretti and Scheckter and Nannini, but I think Peterson is going to be out behind the Brabhams. And he's just ahead of his teammate. So actually that's worked out very well for Peterson. He's going to easily be 3rd. The question is whether he can reel in 10 seconds on the Lotus pair. The Lotus pair are using their boost now to try and get away and get an advantage. But Peterson's got a lot more boost than them. He's going to have the tyres. This should be Reutemann's win. But will it be Reutemann's win? That's what we're going to find out. Giacomelli still hanging in there on the hard tyres. I think he's going to lose out to Pache. and maybe Eamon. Eamon in 8th, a great result, I think. A commendable performance. His teammate, of course, is last, mostly down to the strategy being horrendous for the weather. So that's a shame for Gurney, but there we are. Eamon will pick up some points for Ferrari, as Reutemann is now going to go into the lead of the race, passing Andretti, as Peterson takes 3rd from Scheckter. I think Scheckter will be 4th then, because Giacomelli's not a threat. It's whether Nannini can do anything, and I don't think Nannini can do anything. So that's that. But Reutemann leads then from Andretti, and they do still have boost left. So they are making the time with DRS. Peterson's going to have 7 laps, basically, to try and catch them. If he does this from 18th on the grid, having started on the hards, I think everyone's going to take a long, hard look at themselves, really, because it's not something that I think he really should have managed to do if he can get a win. But I'm not convinced he will be able to bet a 3rd place. I think that Lotus have got this in their pocket. They can afford to back off. They can afford to take it easy on fuel. So, I mean, in the first sector, yeah, it's only a couple of tenths that Peterson's making, so Ligier too heavy on fuel. I think everyone's too heavy because the tyre temperatures have been... It's not been a race where you've been really pushing or going flat out particularly. So there we are. Eamon has come into this, actually, which is terrible news for Bruno Giacomelli. As Nannini will now pass Scheckter, which will be nice for Scheckter to get a bit of DRS. As Giacomelli's going to have to try and break the DRS from Pache. Because Pache, I think once he gets ahead, Giacomelli will not be able to do anything about it. Ix is holding up Depay, who is starting to motor. I think Depay and Jabboy are going to get the last 2 points positions from Ix and Stommelen. I think Aston Martin will be 11th and 12th again. Giacomelli then left for dead by Scheckter. So there goes Carlos Pache past the Italian up into 6th position. Brabham on for another 5-6 by the looks of it, although Depay will probably have something to say about that. As it looks as though there is nothing that Ronnie Peterson can offer for the Lotus pair. Reutemann and Andretti are supreme. I think it's going to be Reutemann who wins this. I think it's going to be Reutemann, which is going to be good for his championship. As Nannini now is going to actually possibly have to defend from his teammate. With Giacomelli going through on Carlos Pache now. So Scheckter, I think, safe in 4th. Is Depay going to try and cruise up to the back of the Eamon train? Sorry, not the Eamon train, the Nannini train, where Eamon is the first car in line to be passed by the Frenchman. Peterson doesn't really have any pace, which I think is possibly because the cars are not particularly good. But 4 laps to go. A couple litres too heavy on fuel. It looks fairly safe now for Lotus. It's going to be a 1-2 for them, unless they run out of fuel. When they look like winning in Sepang, what happened? No points. Out of fuel with a lap and a bit to go. So let's see. Can they manage it? Nannini's struggling because the guys behind him have got 2-lap older, 2-lap younger tyres. So Nannini's starting to struggle because of that. This is going to risk... I don't think Lotus are close enough to pass McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, but they're going to be doing a pretty good job of having a go. Be another podium for Peterson. But Nannini's going to be in trouble here. He's going to lose his 5th position by the looks of it to his teammate Carlos Pache as Andretti takes the lead. And Nannini in the battle for 5th loses out to Carlos Pache, but can he stick with Pache and get it back? Or is he going to be down to 8th by the end of this race? Eamon looking very good. Eamon could be on for 5th place here, which would be Ferrari's best result of the season. And it would put Eamon, I think, above Gurney in points. So Eamon is trying to save his career. He's trying to prolong his time in this championship, which I think a lot of people would say has been too long already. So here comes Depay. He's cruised up to the back of the group. Giacomelli, I don't think, is going to pose a particularly stiff obstacle because he's on very old tyres. So not really a particular problem, I don't think. There's nothing Peterson can really do against the Lotus pair. Nannini struggling, absolutely. As Reutemann takes the lead. I think the only thing of interest left to decide is whether it is, as Eamon now goes for 5th. I think the only thing of interest basically to decide is which Lotus is going to be allowed to win this. I think that's really the only thing of note that is going to happen in this race now. As Nannini's really struggling. As Rint's in the points. Has Jaboui's got all his boost though, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. So it's going to be Reutemann who wins this, I think. Lotus will let it happen. They'll let it play its course. It's going to be Carlos Reutemann taking Lotus' first win of the season, barring any last-minute dramas. As here comes Jabouis, trying to get into the points. He might get Giacomelli and Nannini here, but let's see. As Pache can't get Eamon. No, he does. Pache gets Eamon, so it's going to be 5th place for Carlos Pache, but it's going to be Carlos Reutemann. He's rounding the final few corners now, as Jabouis does get Giacomelli. So here comes Reutemann across the line to win. It's a 1-2 for Lotus. Andretti takes 2nd. Peterson will be 3rd. And another podium. 4th place for Scheckter. 5th place for Pache, as he did last season. Eamon 6th. Nannini 7th. Depay 8th. Jabouis 9th. Giacomelli 10th. No points for Aston Martin. Rindt, though, ahead of Beltois again. Stommel 13th. X 14th. Jarier very poor in 15th. Rosberg 16th. Just beats Cheever across the line. Garibaldi will be 18th, and it'll be Mansell 19th, and Gurney last. I think Rosberg, Mansell, and Gurney on the wrong push level, not really their fault for the events of the race. But Reutemann wins, and that's going to bring his gap at the top of the championship down to 36 points. He was 46 behind, but he's going to be now 36 behind. So if we have a quick run through of the standings. Fastest lap went to Jean-Pierre Jabouis on that last lap. If we are to look at the standings, Ronnie Peterson has 128 points. I beg your pardon, it is 26 points, not 36. Carlos Reutemann 102. Then it's Mario Andretti on 86 points in 3rd. 4th is Nigel Mansell, 83. Jody Scheckter moves up to 5th on 58. Michael Andretti on 55, having been dropped by McLaren. And it's 45 for Beltois in 7th. Jean-Pierre Jarier on 44 in 8th. Patrick Depay 9th on 36. Keke Rosberg 10th on 34. Nannini Alessandro 11th on 26 points. It's a 3-way tie for 12th between Pache, Gurney and Eamon. And on countback, it is Carlos Pache ahead, I believe. Oh, yes, it's Pache's ahead, then Eamon, then Gurney. 15th, Jean-Pierre Jabouis on 18 points. Eddie Cheever on 12 and 16th. Bruno Giacomelli in 17th on 7 points. Jochen Rindt in 18th on 5 points. Rolf Stommel in 19th on 2 points. 20 Jackie X with 1 point. And Mauro Baldi, the only driver yet to score. He has 0 points and is 21st in the championship. In the constructors, McLaren lead by 2 points, 190 for McLaren, 188 for Lotus. Williams off their non-score on 117 in 3rd. Tyrrell 4th, close the gap there on 94. Ligier 5th on 62. Aston Martin 6th on 50. Brabham with another good result, move ahead of Ferrari there on 48, Ferrari on 44. 12 points for Arrows and 3 points for RWB in last. And that is this race done. We will be back next week in Paul Ricard.